set?
Yeah.
Alright, let's get it.
I really love the cactus.
It's my party of four.
Party of four?
Yeah, my party of four.
Okay.
And so even when I do my solo episodes, I still have an audience.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah,
Everybody should have their own
I
party
needed
of
something.
four.
Yeah, we had I think her name was the Cactus Lady.
Uh-huh.
She has like a bus that she drives around, and she sells cactus out of it.
I haven't seen that bus in a while. I've seen around little pop-ups around town.
Yeah, she's usually at like Camp North End or somewhere like that.
For sure.
Yeah, so she came in the store with all her cactus, and I was like, this is the one.
I love it.
Party of four.
What was the comedian Dimitri Martin? He goes, some joke about being less nurturing than the desert. It's like, I can't even keep a cactus alive. I'm less nurturing than a desert. It's a tough time, man.
Yeah, me and my roommate, this is the only thing else that's alive in this place that we know of, besides maybe some other aminals or something.
If you hear any weird static on the episode today, we've somehow woken up the spirits in the house. We'll be fine.
We'll be fine. All right, Rebby. Thank you so much for joining me today, for taking the time out of your schedule. You've been running around all day.
Yes.
And no nap, and we finally got to sit down and have this conversation. I'm really excited to share what you have going on, who you are, and this 35-day challenge that is coming up here in the near future.
Yeah, thanks, Roman. I feel like you and I have been circling around each other and finally find ourselves in the same room instead of just waving to each other online.
Yeah.
So this is good to be in your space and finally connect.
Yeah, I'm so excited just because I've heard so much about you, and then in the recent, like you said, in the recent coming like weeks and months, it's like our paths have actually crossed a little bit more now that you're an ambassador and that you got all these events coming up, and then it just kind of perfectly fell into place here today and coming up for next month's challenge. So yeah, we're happy to have you on.
Thanks.
So for all the people who don't know who you are, give us a little background on yourself and who you are and what makes you you.
Wow, the question of the whole day. Who are you? What makes you tick?
Yeah.
Rebby Kern. I am a leader here in the community. I like to see myself as a transformational leader. And what brought me to Charlotte originally was LGBTQ nonprofit work. And I've been centered within that work, especially supporting LGBTQ young people. That can be a long acronym: lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning folks. And that work brought me here to Charlotte. And I started my first nonprofit in LA, in Riverside, California, in the city where I went to college. And the journey has been incredible since then. And now I'm a yoga instructor, and I'm a Lululemon ambassador.
Wow.
Lululemon Atherton Mill, come check us out, brand new.
Yeah, brand new, freshly open.
Yeah. I'm also leading a podcast now. My podcast is called Fully Integrated. It's definitely a deep dive story into my journey to healing and how I became the person that I am today. I feel like there's a lot more I'm missing. More will come up as we're talking today.
That's a great base. And so what about Charlotte attracted you in that community work out here?
Wow. So spending so much time on the West Coast, I grew up outside of Seattle. I went to school outside of Los Angeles. Seems like in terms of policy and culture, we had everything we needed. People who were living sort of in marginalized identities and living with intersections. And understanding what was happening in North Carolina, I came here right at the end of Amendment 1, the marriage equality work here. And then it was like, lots of policy changes happened that created some disconnect from the community at large and LGBTQ people. And I saw a huge need. And in the first 6 months after the culture shock sunk in, I decided to stay and to do this work because there was a level of privilege of having grown up without having to think twice about holding my partner's hand in public, that I wanted to be a part of the change here in Charlotte.
Yeah, so was it like that Charlotte was almost a little behind compared to like California that you saw, and then it was just like...
Yeah. North Carolina as a whole, and we can look at culture, we can, even in the terms of public policy, policy within education. It's a different world. It's a really, really different world between the two sides of the country.
Yeah. So, what is the nonprofit that you started and worked for, and what are they doing to combat the policies and everything else going on?
Yeah. So the first nonprofit I worked with, Campus Pride, was looking specifically at higher education and how students on college campuses can feel safe, have more welcoming classrooms, and shift policy within those institutions. Following that, I went to Washington, D.C. during the 2016 election and worked to help endorse candidates across the country who were running for local government, city council, mayor, and all the way up to Senate, and endorsing those candidates and creating success for them who are out and running for their campaign. And then worked for Time Out Youth Center for a few years here in Charlotte. That's the LGBTQ Youth Center, now located off Monroe Road. And my work there was specifically with K-12 education, training educators in schools for safe and welcoming environments, supporting families with kids in transition. And then now I'm with Equality North Carolina, which is a statewide nonprofit doing that work within our state, lobbying our legislature to help prevent things like HB2 from ever happening again, and creating safer spaces and empowering young leaders through the Rural Youth Empowerment Fellowship, which is one of my programs that I oversee right now.
Yeah, and so for someone who doesn't know, what does HB2 mean, and what?
How much time do we have today? Yeah, HB2 is House Bill 2, and in 2014, the Charlotte City Council put forth an amendment to an expansion, really, for the city ordinance in terms of public accommodations. For those of you that are like not into policy whatsoever, public accommodations is how we access public spaces like taxi cabs and public bathrooms. And the city of Charlotte wanted to create more space for LGBTQ people, especially gender diverse people. And what that meant was that it didn't matter what was on your birth certificate. For somebody who is transgender, they can utilize any restroom that is aligned with who they are. And the state of North Carolina didn't like that. And so they did an 11-hour closed door session and created a statewide block to our city ordinance here that said you have to use the restroom aligned with your birth certificate, period. And so that launched a lot of issues and was really reflective of other states in the country who were doing similar bathroom bills to prevent trans and gender diverse people from living an effective life. We shouldn't be dictating who is using which restroom at all.
Wow. Yeah. And so I didn't know that the acronym, but like after you explained it, I remember it going on a little bit, just because I was like in the transformation of moving to Charlotte and everything like that. I remember hearing about it. And so what has drawn you to pursue this passion that you have of helping these people? Because it's like it's almost like it's like a big mission, honestly. And it's something that like a lot of people don't agree with, and it's like there's both sides to it. And so what sparked that interest and inspiration in you, and what how have you grown kind of from fighting this whole battle?
Wow, gosh, I felt like I was born an activist, always advocating, right, for people. I'm an ENFJ, and so I fully identify with my Myers-Briggs personality. I'm the protagonist, and when I went to college, I went to a small Seventh-day Adventist institution in California, and it was the first time that I felt like my identity wasn't seen. And the Seventh-day Adventist, it's this blend of Christianity and Judaism. It's Jesus as the Messiah, and also Sabbath, and really strong health codes. And within that period of time, while I was in school, year after year, students attempted to create a student organization focused on the needs of LGBTQ people. And year after year, the school came back and said, this doesn't align with the mission and values of the church. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to approve your club. And when I came into leadership, leading that work, I didn't take no for an answer. And we did a huge community event with multiple college campuses in the city, focused on slam poetry, raising awareness for what happened at the school. Got the media involved, and then I got an invitation to come into the student life office and have a sit down with some staff and see what can happen. Many years went by that this club went unofficial, unchartered, but functioned sort of underground. Last year, I'm happy to report that the club is officially chartered on the school. It's chartered from the psychology department, and the church has put out a statement of approval of inclusion for the LGBTQ community within the church. And so no longer can out queer people be pushed back and say, I'm sorry, you're not aligned with fundamental belief number 28. Thou shalt not pass. And it's a new age for folks like me who are living at the intersection of faith. My journey with spirituality and faith has evolved over time. And in that time, it definitely pushed me away into thinking of a completely different conception of a higher power that works in my life. And so using that experience as a wee babe, I had to have been 19.
As a wee babe.
Yeah, going through that work. And that was the nonprofit. There were 13 sibling campuses, and so we fundraised for all of those schools, all of those students, to be able to organize the way that we were. And so that was a national nonprofit, which was really cool. And so when I moved here, because I already had that skill, I became inspired because of my pain, because of watching my peers have the F slur written on their dorm doors and nobody doing anything about it. To be told, no, like you're not a part of this and we don't want you here. It was confusing, and I didn't want to feel like that again. I didn't want people to ever feel like that. And I don't know, I just felt really called to do this work, and it's fulfilling. It's so fulfilling.
It sounds like you've had this, like you said, calling to speak for the ones that don't want to speak, or for the ones that aren't confident enough to speak, or just the ones that something will happen to them and they won't tell anybody. All the silent ones, essentially. And it's like, and then you're out there like, hey, I got your back, you know?
I got your back, yeah.
That's awesome. And so how has it kind of impacted, your nonprofit impacted the Charlotte community, and then back to how has it impacted you, and what have you seen and kind of grown from that community out here in Charlotte?
Yeah, in the Charlotte community, the level of resistance, especially when HB2 came up, and then in the time when the Charlotte Uprising had happened, I remember seeing a Confederate flag for the very first time live in real fabric when I moved here, and I really thought that was something that was just in the textbooks. And I saw that this connection of this level of our fundamental belief says, and whether it's stemming from racism or stemming from Christianity or stemming from whatever that person's belief is, seeing that culture intertwine here, and people just want to like thrive and live and survive, and to have these blocks happen, and for kids it starts when they get off out of bed and get dressed and go to the bus stop and ride the bus and get in the breakfast line at school, go to Chrome Room before they even get to first period. There are all of these impacts that can happen. And so I saw that correlation right away, and I felt like I knew what to do. Like, this wasn't a part of the curriculum in my marketing programming in school, right? This was through the lived experience of being an out person, of helping other out people within systems that are creating oppression for people like me. And so that helped me. And moving through into 2016, what started impacting me was hitting barrier after barrier. Being that voice also means being strong. And right around the time of the election, I wasn't feeling so strong anymore. The Title IX protections felt like they had been rescinded when the Dear Colleague letter was was taken off of the books by the current administration. Any LGBTQ or HIV/AIDS work was scrubbed from the White House website. And Kevin Grimm was fighting in the Supreme Court for gender justice. And I just wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what my role was in the work, and I took a step back. And after I came back from DC, I worked retail, and just try to lay low for a little bit and understand why I'm still doing this work, and how can I recharge from being sort of on that front line. And I needed to take that step back. And as a high functioning extrovert, that was the biggest thing that I learned for myself, was if I'm doing this empathetic work, this social justice work, am I really truly taking care of myself? And that was a time when I was hiding a lot of my own personal trauma. You know, I'd come out of addiction and living a new sober life. And even though I wasn't using because I felt bad, I was almost escaping by helping other people. And sort of like just going over like, I'm fine. I'm fine, what do you need? And there was a big disconnect, and that was my biggest takeaway in doing nonprofit work of service, was learning how to take care of myself along the way.
Yeah, because you have to, I mean, it's like I've heard it so many times, like you can't fill up someone else's cup if your cup's not full type thing. And so it's like you could be out there doing as much work as you can in the community and everything, but then you can you could be hiding all your problems and hiding all your insecurities and everything like that, and you can't make the same impact that you would if you didn't have those issues, you know? And I think that's great that you kind of saw that you were like almost draining yourself by helping everybody else, and then you had to almost step back and say like, what were my needs? How could I kind of better myself and get myself right?
Absolutely.
To help others get right too.
Yeah.
It's awesome, because I mean I've been there where it's like I'm just putting myself out there so much that I didn't know that I was just so busy, so like doing everything that I could to like put myself out there, social media, everything, and then it's like I'd come home and be drained, be empty, and like, man, I'm not who I should be helping these people.
Especially that technological persona. That's particularly draining. If you know anybody running a podcast or running really powerful social media work, check in on them. Ask them if there's something you can do to support them.
Yeah, because I mean it's a lot, but it's fun. It's fun too. But like, I mean, when you say like run a podcast or anything, it's like when I like my podcast is my passion project, and so it's like, and it's like kind of like my own kind of thing where I'm still trying to help all the individuals like around the city and everything, but it's like you almost have this like calling for people that, like I'm helping people that almost don't know they have a problem. When you're kind of, you know the problem and you're trying to fix that problem. And so that's kind of where it kind of teeters a little bit. And so it's like, I wish I had a tangible problem that like was out there that the community already knew about, that it's like, I'm just trying to help more people live a lifestyle of wellness and stuff and kind of get out of their own way. And so it's like I applaud you for everything, all like everything you're doing, trying to help this community out, and I know that they're in good hands if they're being led by you.
Aw, thanks, man.
And
we're both out here doing some work.
Yeah, we're out here doing it, and that's almost like a great kind of segue into that 35-day challenge, because I'll let you talk about it, but yeah, speak on the 35-day challenge and what it's kind of about, and what the main goal is for everyone that's completing it with you guys.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this.
Yeah.
So Wesley and I have launched this program, the 35-day BreakThru Challenge, and it's essentially 5 weeks of a self-development program. And it's run on Facebook, so we'll be able to be in person, be connected to each other, and share our journey together live online. And this whole thing came out of how is it, like the question, how is it that what we're doing in our lives are connecting to our bigger vision? Most people are like, vision, what do you mean? Like I envision myself driving a Jaguar in 5 years. We're talking about the big vision picture.
Yeah.
Right? And you spoke to it yourself too, like, this is a passion project, and what else? Like, what else is that thing that I'm working towards?
Yeah.
And so the main details of it, 5 weeks, 5 phases. We take a look at what your vision is for your life, boil that down, and then do an inventory of all of the things that you're spending energy and time on. Walking your dog, reading, writing, sweating, work, relationship, all of the ways that you make money, make passion, hobbies, and sometimes even the things that some folks are not ready to admit, drinking too much on a regular basis, or relying on substances to find happiness or comfort. All of that counts in. But if we're spending our energy on those things, is it working us towards our big vision?
Yeah.
That's when the breakthrough happens. We really focus in on week 3 on what's holding you back. And that fear of, I don't want to leave this relationship because it's comfortable, or I don't want to tell my partner that I'm not in love with them because I don't want to hurt them. All of these pieces play a role, but if you know that that thing that you're spending energy on isn't taking you to your next level, isn't connecting you to your vision, there's some assessment to do, right? And so then we carry people along through that journey and to see the massive action that they take in their life to get aligned and do that work. And then by the time we're finished, it's going to be 2020. It's going to be a new decade.
That's the wild part. Yeah.
And people are already going to be on this momentum. It's bigger than a New Year's resolution. This is life-changing.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you're starting the end of this year intentionally for the start of the next year. And by taking in the inventory of everything and kind of seeing what almost like what the ROI is on these different, on where I'm putting
such a good way to say
where I'm putting my energy. What's the return on me watching 4 hours of football on Sunday, every Sunday?
Sure.
You know, what's the ROI of me going out and drinking? I actually I told a friend the other day. They're like, "What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "I'm probably just gonna work on roaming around." I was like, the ROI on going out and having a couple of drinks and trying to interact socially in a club bar atmosphere. I was like, ROI, less money in my pocket, a headache in the morning, and the work that I didn't get done.
What an important assessment to make.
Yeah, and so when you're thinking about like all that stuff, and like, because for the past couple weeks I thought I was doing a lot, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna build my own website instead of like trying to collab for someone to build my website. And then it was like, okay, I could be doing so much more because I just built a website in a week. It's like if I just like shift what I was doing and like and then boom, now it's like my energy's more intentional, I'm getting more out of it, and now I got a website.
Wow. That's such a great example, Roman. And when you do that daily inventory, that time and energy inventory, when you talk about ROI, and is this thing that I'm spending time on, is it making me money so that I have financial stability? Is this filling my heart space, in my interpersonal relationships, my hobbies, my joys? And is it filling my professional or personal growth? Am I working myself to that raise? Am I working myself to that goal that I said I was going to achieve? And then based on how you respond to each of those buckets, you can say, well, maybe I can use that energy I'm spending watching football and put that into my website and see what grows. And oftentimes I see challenges like this where it's like, stop doing the bad thing you don't want to do anymore. It's like, well, we're already walking in like with negative, like working on the negative. It's like, yeah, you'll make that decision for yourself. And the goal is to look at the big picture and set yourself up to that highest call for yourself.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to mean, and like you said, it's not like you don't have to cancel everything out. I mean,
that's right.
It could be an instant, it could be a change from, instead of just watching football, you mute the football game and you work on something while football's in the background.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, and then from there, it's like you still get the entertainment factor that you still get to watch your favorite team, and then you can still get a little bit of work done.
Absolutely.
And that little bit of work is going to get you that much closer to whatever goal that was, whatever, it'll get you more on track, and you're just using your time more efficiently than you would be if you were just sitting there, feet kicked up, just watching the game.
I mean, hell, maybe one of your goals is I want to work on my website updates 2 hours a week. So then you look at your schedule and say, I have this open afternoon on Sundays. I can turn the game on. I can invite a friend over, and I can listen to my favorite podcast, have the game on, and still do that work. And then you're just being more intentional about it. Instead of I'm clearing my schedule for football with low ROI, you're setting your time up for that website so that you can be great.
Yeah, I love it. And so we got 35 days, 5 weeks, 5 different segments. And what are, because I know that there's going to be some habit changes in there, and so what are some other changes that are you expect people to see at the end of the 35 days?
Wow. So a big part is that this whole process can be replicated at any point of a person's year, week, life.
Yeah.
Like even within an hour to sit down and take a deeper look at everything. What I hear a lot this time of year are people recognizing their nutrition and sweat habits, routines. I want to eat healthier. I want to go to the gym more. And so instead of saying, I'm going to purchase a gym membership starting, December 1st, if we look at it instead of breaking that goal out, if my vision for myself is to be healthy, and I set many goals up for that, right? I want to sweat 4 times a week. I would like to meal prep once a week. Maybe that also means I need to get a lunchbox with ice packs so that I can take my prepped food with me during the week, whatever that takes. And then it's building that routine in and being accountable. So a big piece of this whole thing is every person's getting an accountability partner. And so that accountability partner is going to check in, right? And I'll say, Roman, will you call me on Sunday at 4 and ask me if I did my meal prep yet? You're like, yeah. Will you ask me if I did my website work? Yeah. All right, cool. So we're accountability partners. We call at 4 o'clock on Sunday and check in. And maybe I'm like, oh, Roman, I haven't made time to cook yet because I was at Lululemon all day.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that's cool. When are you going to cook? And I can adjust myself at that moment. So instead of shaming myself and saying, I set this goal, I didn't make it, I'm just going to quit ever thinking about meal prepping again. It's resetting. Right? Every moment it's okay. There's no finish line. Goals can be made, they can be reset. And if you're still working towards that bigger vision of being healthy, maybe you ask a friend to come over and meal prep with you so it's more fun.
Oh, yeah. Or even like, I've heard of people, a group of 5 people meal prepping different meals and then they're swapping so that you're not eating the same thing.
Oh my gosh, that's so smart.
Yeah. We can have to throw that in the group if there's people that want to meal prep. Because then you come up with 5 Tupperwares and then you leave with 4 different ones.
See, that's the best kind of cookie exchange party.
You're not even getting cookies. You're getting, and everybody kind of different meat, or you can just kind of play it out however your favorite meal you want to cook. You only eat it once a week, and then you get everybody else's favorite meal.
And that's a creativity to it. Like, you can be accountable to yourself and also make it fun. If being healthy is something fun and exciting to you, it definitely doesn't have to look like sweating 4 times a week. It can be fun and exciting, going on a walk outside through Noda.
And I tell people that too. I'm like, just go back and go to something that you want. Like sweating or physical activity looks different for everyone. If in your head you picture yourself dancing and sweating and losing weight, go to a cardio dance class.
Oh my gosh, go see Keisha at the Dowd for her cardio fun class. Best class I've ever been to, hands down.
Yeah, it's like if you don't see yourself like lifting weights at Gold's Gym and doing the pulley systems, don't do it. It's like I try and even tell my wrestlers, I'm like, when you're pinning the guy, what move do you see yourself pinning the guy in? Let's work on that one and not work on the one that you don't see yourself. Yeah. It's like,
it's huge.
And I also love how it sounds like this 35-day challenge is one of the importance around it is schedule. Is your schedule and looking at it, and because me being someone I was never a schedule guy. Like I was like one of those little dandelions or whatever, you blow them off and then they just fly away.
Where's Roman? No one knows.
I'm wandering but never lost. I was like, but I never went on a schedule. I remember calling a girl to Macy. She was on my podcast, and She was like, all right, I'll do the podcast, but send me a Google invite and we'll make it happen. And I was like, I write things down. And she goes, all right, well, learn how to Google how to send a Google Calendar invite, and then send me an invite, and you'll thank me later. And now it's like that's my only calendar that I use. And when I put something on that calendar, it's set in stone. And so it's like, I love how that's how you guys are organizing it. And so have you always been someone that's kind of been strict on their schedule? Or is this something that like you've had to learn and that now you're kind of
So it's
teaching to
something
others?
that's grown. It's something that's grown on me for sure. And what I want to say too about the part of the routine is that it's not about doing the same thing every single day. It's about doing what matters and setting that energy on what really matters in life, and it will build itself into a new rhythm in your life. Instead of, did I meditate for 5 minutes this morning, check the box, yes or no. Yes, meditation is important, and the reason why is crucial. So I have my hands in a lot of different pots in my life, and lots of commitments and lots of time, and scheduling became crucial to me so that I held integrity. And if I say I'm going to do something, if I don't have some kind of accountability measure or to be able to see the big picture of my week, then what's the point? Roman, the most important thing I've discovered is looking ahead. And so if I have 2 speaking engagements next week and I'm not looking at it on paper, guess what? I'm not scheduling in prep time. And so then I show up and holy cow, this engagement for the IFC at Davidson's coming up and I'm not written my speech yet, right? So if getting that gig was a goal of mine, I will have within this program broken down whatever it is I need to do. I need to set up a 30-minute call with the organizer to get clear. I need to set down 2 hours of writing time, right? Breathe on it, let it breathe, go back another 30 minutes, reviewing, editing, another 30 minutes, speaking it out loud to somebody somewhere, and then lo and behold, the event will come and I'm prepared. So it's not just about landing that gig, it's about all of that work. And it takes all of that to get there. Same thing with any sweat. Maybe it starts with buying the shoes, right? If you're running a marathon, you don't just run 26 miles in the morning. You work yourself up to maybe a run walk for 1 mile. You know, a run walk for 5 miles the next week, or whatever that. I've never run a marathon. I can imagine, right? And that part of the scheduling often goes overlooked besides, put this thing down on your schedule and then do it, right? There's sometimes smaller breakdowns, smaller goals to meet to be able to get to that place.
That's, you kind of hit it. Yeah, because I know as a sports psychology major, the one reason why people don't adhere to workout programs is because they don't schedule it in. They buy that membership, they start the following day, and then they never plan it, either in their schedule with the kids, taking with the logistics of it, or they like almost like get way ahead of themselves. They kill themselves the first day, and then they're like, whoa, I haven't worked out in 3 months. Now I'm sore as shit, and I don't want to work out tomorrow. Or I don't want to work out Tuesday.
Thanks, berries.
Now it's like, thanks for that treadmill or that double floor that I thought was going to be easier because I hated the treadmill. But it's like, people don't take into account of those things, the recovery and all those. And so that's from the sports psych world. It's like scheduling is so imperative, just so that I guess if you don't know it's like you don't know where you're going, you don't picture yourself where you're going and re-engineer it back, you're just going to end up nowhere. And then a lot of people, if you don't schedule in your goals and and then how you're going to get there, whether it's a 6-week program, 12-week program, anything like that, fitness and health wise, if there's no aim, you have no target. If there's no aim, you can't score without a goal.
You cannot score without a goal.
And I wish Wes was here because that's a soccer. Can't score without a goal, Wes. You know that.
Oh, I'm so grateful for Wes. The more time that Wes and I sat down and kind of chatted about where we were at, many of you know that Wes is coming off of a collarbone injury and has his hands in a lot of different projects too. He and I really related that the vision was the key. I was let go from my job back in February with Time Out Youth Center, and that was the one place that I felt I had dedicated a lot of my time and energy and sort of focused in on that realm, while I was still modeling and dog sitting and eventually teaching yoga minimally. That space was, my 9 to 5 and then even my weekends. And when I was let go, I didn't know what the goal was anymore. I had all of this free time, and to be honest, I spent the first 2 weeks in bed. I could not peel myself out of bed. And then it was like, okay, I gotta make money. Like that last paycheck is gone now. What do I do? And with the yoga studios, I was able to pick up classes and sub here and there and pick up dog sitting. And I found myself overbooking, double booking, and just feeling lost, feeling like I wasn't on a pathway anywhere specific. And that was when I had to sit down and say, what do I want for my life? And I had some of these tools already from my yoga teacher training, but I just sort of backed up and sat. I did a week of self-care. The Power of Positivity Challenge had popped up around that time, and I got connected with what really matters the most to me in my life. And
so important.
Huge. So I'm able to boil down my vision into 3 words: healing. Now, what am I doing to take care of myself so that I don't slip into my old habits, so that I'm uplifting and empowering myself and not relying on another human to do that for me. The second is helping others. So nonprofit work is still a fundamental piece for me. Yoga, to be able to teach and be in that space, huge for me. That's been the foundation from the beginning, even the way that, I've been sharing all of that with you. And the third for me is self-supporting. Growing up with very little money, I find myself finding comfort in money. When a lot of it comes in, I want to spend it and show other people I have it. And what am I doing to be fully self-sufficient to myself? And that's kind of where entrepreneurism is playing a role, because can I sell myself to the bank and still help others? That's out of vision for me. And so I let go of wanting to climb a corporate ladder a long time ago. No shade to anybody, right? That is doing that, right? That's not my pathway, and there's no shame in that either. And so everything that I have in my life right now is aligned to that big vision. And as new commitments came up, as speaking engagements, as new companies new nonprofits were wanting to engage with me, I had to get aligned and be willing to say no. Whoa. The power of saying no changed everything, because if it's not aligned with my vision, then there's no ROI for me in it.
Wow. And you laid down some those 3 essential kind of core values that you have. I mean, the one that stuck with me was the healing one, just because you even said it so wonderfully when you said that you can't look for what you need in someone else, essentially. Yeah. I try and, as an analogy, I try and tell people it's like a puzzle. I was like, if you have a 100-piece puzzle, you can't look for that 100th piece in someone else. Someone else isn't going to have your 100th piece. You just got to look in all your pockets and dive down deep and just find that 100th piece, because it's somewhere in you. But if you look for it in someone else, then they're not a complete picture either.
It's going to be their puzzle.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't complete another person. I am a complete person.
Yeah.
Maybe connecting, sharing journey with another complete person.
Yeah. So once you're a full picture, then you seek a full picture, and you're not seeking someone that has 98 pieces, who's still dealing with the trauma that they had when they were a kid, or is going through something with their recent significant other or family, and so they're peaceless.
Yeah, and how much pain, how much hurt we can cause other people from that space if that's not healed yet.
Yeah, and I know that was a cycle that I continuously saw myself going through until I noticed that I needed healing, and then boom, that's kind of where that's why I was in love with that first one that you said. I was like, healing.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
I've read that page before. I've been there before, and just kind of dove into that healing process. It's hard, but it's necessary.
And to end the cycle, and I come from generations of trauma and abuse, and to stop the line with me is empowering and scary. And there's parts of me that react naturally sometimes, and I evaluate that first response, first reaction. Like, it's okay that that shows up, and I get to choose today whether I feed into that or choose joy, choose happiness, and choose healing.
Because whatever you feed is gonna grow, and so if you're feeding the wound or you're feeding the healing part, one of those the healing's either gonna grow or the wound's gonna get bigger. And so that's where it's like, where are you putting your energy, and it kind of goes back to right back where we were talking about, like, what's feeding your energy and what's taking your energy away from your goals, or where are you putting your energy? It's like, if you're putting your energy on your ex because you can't get over them, then that's where the healing comes in, because that's going to free up a lot of energy that you can put towards your passion, that you can put towards your goals, towards your sweat, towards anything like that. When you can take your mind off of that toxic, especially the stuff that's like telling you that you're toxic. Because that's the worst kind of toxic stuff. I mean, because someone else can blurb some toxic into you, or blurb some toxic into your life, the middle finger on the road or something. But then if you let the way that someone else is talking to you affect the way you talk to yourself, that's when that's when the spiral just starts going, and that rabbit hole gets a little bit bigger. And
you got it. That's exactly it, man.
Yeah, it's wild. And so you and Wes are going through the challenge as well.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing to me. And what are your kind of goals going into it that you expect yourself to overcome, just so people have an idea of like what their thought process should be going in when they sign up?
Yeah, so I have big imposter syndrome right now as a public speaker and as an ambassador for a global brand, and I've taken the I out of me, right? I'm so humble and so grateful to be in this space, and if this is that magic zone where everything I do really counts here. And to continue committing into what's right in front of me, I can really grow the way that I'm helping others and being a community leader. And, I've already had to reschedule multiple people along the way because I've double booked. I picked up to sub a class even just yesterday and overbooked I'm in a wedding. I'm a bride kick for a good friend of mine, and we had a planning meeting set up and getting really clear about that. That's showing up a lot for me. And then the negative impacts in my personal relationships in my life is I don't feel seen by you. I feel like I don't matter to you when you reschedule with me. And to forget a meeting is my worst fear. And so going back to the drawing board of where is it that I need to start saying no? Because I only have 24 hours in a day, and Beyonce has a hell of a lot more help than I do. And so even though we have the same 24 hours, I've got to really dwindle things down and get clear on what my weekly, daily schedule and routine looks like, so that I'm not overbooking or rescheduling with things that really matter to me. And so to say, yes, I want to see you, and I have time in 2 weeks, and to help people understand like that's what my life needs to look like right now, is really good. And what I will also say about this is there's so much new. There's so much new in my world. And especially with this ambassadorship, I have such big dreams and goals, and to know what I'm asking for, and to know how to make this work for me and for Lululemon. As an example, what does my presence look like in store? What's my relationship with other staff members? And this isn't just like a pretty badge I get to put on my Instagram profile. This is engagement, and this is being seen. And I love going home at the end of the night and turning off my phone. And sometimes this is, maybe I go out once a week and go be in the community. Even though I don't drink, I can still go and be social in that way. And so I feel nervous to get pushed back into like social interactions in the evenings.
It's that's a different kind. It's a different environment. It really is. But I think those are wonderful, and I think that that's awesome that you are gearing up to make this platform that you recently have as being a Lululemon ambassador. It sounds like you're ready to milk it for all it's worth. You're like, let's do this 35-day challenge, let's get everything in line so that I can use this platform and use the influence to make the biggest impact.
Absolutely. ROI to the max.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was actually listening to like Gary Vee talk the other day to a Rutgers football team, and he was like, this is the biggest platform some of you guys are going to have.
Wow.
Is that people will only care about you. Like you'll have alumni that care about you until you take that letter R off your jersey, and then when you're done with that, you're off, you know? And so it's like,
wow.
And
so what do you say while you have that platform?
What do you use while that platform's there, and how do you make the most out of your impact, your reach, and everything like that while you still have it? And like, I mean, you just starting too, and like you've seen that and knowing that like, okay, this isn't just an Instagram, like an Instagram header. This isn't just product. This is way more than that. And being with a company for 2 years, I love that that's how you're going. It's like you've already been with Lulu for longer than you've been with us. You're already ready. It's the timing's perfect.
It couldn't be more perfect, and that's why I know I need to get aligned to move forward to have the best impact.
Gosh, I love that. I love it. Now I gotta think of something that I'm gonna do. I already got big plans for 2020.
Ooh, all right. So what's one thing that you are currently spending your time on a regular basis that is either supporting you financially, bringing you joy, or growing yourself professionally?
What is one of those things?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say podcasting is
Cool.
definitely one of those things.
So looking at podcasting, what's one goal that you have with podcasting?
Well, I know for 2020, I'm planning on 100 episodes.
Okay, 100 episodes in 2020.
In 2020, 2 a week.
Ooh. Okay, that's the piece. So
that's
2
the
a
piece.
week.
Yeah, 2 a week.
What days are you recording?
I take recording and releasing on, those are 2 separate entities. And so I'll be releasing twice a week. Releasing on, I think, Wednesdays and Sundays.
Perfect.
And then recording, this is actually the first one that I think I'm actually recording on the day that it's coming out.
Oh.
Yeah.
No pressure.
So this is the first one that's actually been like record, and then I'm gonna release this right after this.
Yes.
Essentially. But most of the time I don't like it like that. Mm-hmm. I like to have that little gap where I can kind of sit down and soak it in, because usually it's like if we recorded this on Tuesday, I usually wouldn't even look at it until Sunday or Saturday night when I was editing it.
Right.
I listen to it back, and because actually most people don't know, or some people know, these podcasts drain me in the best way. Mm-hmm. In the best way. I mean, every time I go through like a week or 2 without recording, and I'm like in a low, and I'm like thinking like, man, like, oh, like what am I really doing and everything like that. It all comes back to me when I sit down with someone like you, or sit down and like get to hear someone's story and their passion and everything. And then I turn off the mic and turn off the camera, and I'm like, that's why I do this shit. You know, that's why I do it. And so it's like that's why I like recording and getting a little far in advance, so that I can don't have to record every week, but I can have my weeks where it is kind of a rest, because they are draining.
Wow. So that's good. So that leads me into asking you, what are 3 things that you can do on a weekly basis to meet that goal of releasing 2 episodes a week?
And I think this goes straight into what you were saying, which was thinking ahead, you know. Mm-hmm. I fortunately get to see how much content I have, how many weeks ahead I am. And then the hardest part is scheduling, is booking people and making sure that that's the right time for both of us, that we both can make it, and that something doesn't come. Wow. And so that's the hard part. So if I can book it 2 weeks in advance, 3 weeks in advance, kind of like you said, where it's like I know that, and it's only going to get tighter with more episodes.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, I know I can do like the 50 interviews. Those are the 50 or so episodes on Sunday. Those are going to be the main chunk. I just got like 24 episodes of my wrestling club,
nice.
which was a big step for me, and that I'll tell all the audience more about. We got a big 25 episodes slated, and then so those other 25 are still kind of in the air. So those are
focus on those first.
Those are the ones, because because it's like those are the ones where it's gonna be, those 25 are gonna be split out so evenly within that whole year that's when it's like it's gotta it's essentially gonna end up being the other 2 weeks a month, the midweek episodes.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I'm dealing with and kind of thinking about what I'm gonna fill with those that time slots.
Roman, what's your biggest fear podcasting, or setting your goals for podcasting?
I don't know if fear is the right word. I mean, I don't think the fear is
This
there.
just in, Roman does not experience fear.
It's well, I mean, because if you would have asked me this before I started podcasting, I had the biggest fear of my first episode, of just releasing that and just being vulnerable. And that took me a while. And like, if it wasn't for this one experience where I went on a cruise that I won on Instagram, where Instagram cruise with a bunch of influencers. It was like every person on this cruise had over like 50,000 followers.
Whoa.
It was weird. It was crazy. I won it on Instagram, and then I showed up, and it was just all these fitness influencers all on this cruise ship. It was a workout cruise, CrossFit cruise. It was called Water on the Waves. And once I saw all these influencers just putting themselves out there, the first thing I did was come back and I released an episode, because I was just like, I see all these people doing it, and they're just. I was like, look, they're on the beach. They're taking pictures. I was like, they're doing it right now. They're influencing. I was like, look at them. And so then I was like, man, I'm sitting on 8 episodes that I've already recorded, 8 interviews, sitting on gold. I'm not sharing with anyone.
Wow.
Now it was just me taking that step for myself to help others. And so after that, it was like, now I'm just a man of my word. And so the fact that I put one out, and I'm this will be 44 Sundays in a row that I've released an episode every Sunday. It's like, now I'm just a man of my word.
Yeah.
And so it's like, now it's like, I've been saying I'm doing 2 episodes a week next year for the past month and a half. I just gotta be a man of my word now. And so it's not even like a fear of anything. It's more of just like finding content that's valuable for people that I can bring. Wow. And making sure I'm not just turning on the mic spontaneously on a random Wednesday with no agenda and just like blurting stuff out just to fill space. That might be my fear, is not bringing enough value in 100 episodes.
So intention, integrity.
And so,
love that.
Yeah, and so I guess, but yeah, behind that whole spiel, I did find my fear. My fear is not bringing value in 100 episodes. And so, I guess next year will be like well, I'm not even gonna say a trial year, because it's gonna be just another year, because I'm gonna be doing it the following year anyway. But it's like, let's see if you can really fill 100 episodes. It's almost like that's the challenge for me.
So you set your vision on, my podcast brings value. And the mantra in those moments when you're like, I don't know if I want to release this one, or I don't think my viewers, my listeners want this one. And then you bring that mantra back in, right? Especially in the face of that fear of your podcast not bringing value. My podcast is bringing value into the lives of others.
Yeah.
You manifest that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, that's the breakthrough that happens, that people will be able to learn that. You asked that earlier about what habits is it? What is it about the habits that people are going to get out of this? It's going to be that self-talk in such a big way to both identify what is blocking them and enhance that positivity that comes out of it of, yes, I can, and I'm going to. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah. Gosh, I thank you for asking those questions, because usually it's 90% me asking questions.
That's what happens when you bring a podcaster on your show.
I like that was flipped on me, that I got to answer those questions, and now let's get these 35 days started.
Yes! Right? Roman is in, we're saving you a seat.
I'm like, I need to go write down like some content for these next 100 episodes. Like, yes. I'm already ready to write down, ready to schedule in brainstorming time.
This is solid.
Let's and so let's dive in a little bit on you. Towards the end, I like to ask a couple questions that are about you and just learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, if there's one habit that you have right now that you would recommend someone else to get more out of their day, their week, their month, their life, anything like that, what would you recommend?
In terms of routine, meditation has been something that I've gotten the most out of, and something that I do on a regular basis. And it shows up in lots of different aspects of my life, especially between recovery and yoga. And when people consider meditation, they think about somebody sitting still, maybe on a pillow, legs crossed, palms on knees, closed eyes.
Yeah.
That's the vision of meditation. What I've learned along my journey is that meditation takes on many different forms. When I was early in recovery, really struggling with the urge to use or to get out of my body, going outside and feeling the sunshine on my face, standing underneath a tree, being with nature, walking around the block, helped me redirect the energy that was circling around that idea of wanting to escape and back into my environment, right? Back into what's right in front of me right now, just being right where my feet are. And that was some of the best meditation work that I've done in my whole life. Whether I wake up and the first thing that I do before my eyes hit the screen, it is meditate. And it puts more moments into my moments. It helps me respond instead of react. And if any of you drive on 77, and there's a way to respond. If somebody cuts me off, right, I just slow down and let them in and move on. The reaction is making them wrong because of that. The reaction is the curse words that I choose to use in that moment. And there's a really definite choice. If I'm cussing somebody out on the way to work, what is the rest of my workday going to look like from there? And so meditation really helps me access that. And on my pathway throughout the day, that's something I would highly recommend to somebody, and drop the idea that meditation has to look one specific way. It could be taking 3 deep breaths in front of your desk before writing or sending that email.
Yeah, and I mean, because meditating, I think I'm at like 3 months now, 30 minutes in the morning, which I love. Shout out Joe Dispenza, he's been helping me so much. But I also see it in just those little moments where when you do get cut off and you just take that breath, or I'm dealing with a guest that isn't heard outside of the store, and so they bring what they're dealing with to me while I'm getting them fitted in pants or something. And it's like, and just knowing that, like, that's you, this is me, I'm not gonna let that affect me, instead of going back and like telling my coworker, like, man, I had this horrible guest or something, and then really kind of making that, it's like you have the ability to cut that toxic energy off at you, or you have the ability to let that soak into you, and then you can even pass it to someone else, and it's like, and then that's where that toxic thing spreads. Or you can just like help make that person's day, and then share that good experience with other people, and just make it a positive world, you know? If everybody made someone's day every day.
Oh,
wow.
Yes.
Wow, that choice, that power of choice is just, it's crazy, and some people just don't know it, or they're not aware that they have the choice. They're just in autopilot with their responses.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly it. And those are some of the habits that people don't even know that they're in, because they don't recognize the choice that they have. They've not been exposed to anything different. And it's that same generational trauma, right? Are we passing down what we don't even know we're passing down?
Yeah, and because I've seen some people in traffic, and it's like they always get mad in traffic.
They do.
And it's like, are you gonna let other people in cars, like, they aren't gonna hear you, who aren't? It's like you're in your own little, like, your own little phone booth essentially in there, and it's like no one else can hear you when you're cursing out the other people.
The energy's only infecting you.
It's only in there, and then it's like, oh man. But then it follows you throughout your day. And so, gosh, the choice, the power of choice. I love that. So meditating was your big one for your routines.
Absolutely.
I love it. Where can people find you in the community out here in Charlotte? And where are you teaching and everything?
Cool. My home studio is Yoga One, so I teach there throughout the week. A big commitment I made to myself is to take Saturdays off because for many months I was working 7 days a week. And so I now have Saturdays off. So you can find me Sunday to Friday every week. I'm also at Sweat Method, which is in South End on Winifred. And I'm at Vibes in South Park. And then I'm also at a new boutique studio called Anything Goes. It's where the Cat Cafe was in Noda before it moved underneath or beside near Curio. So it's Area 15. So I'm there in those spaces. You can find me working with Amplify and Activate. We have a summit coming up, and then you can also find me doing many speaking engagements around town. My Instagram is the best way to track me down.
Nice.
Rebby Kern and Rebby Kern Yoga. You know, and there are a few places where I find my people. You know, whether it's coffee shops or connecting with other leaders. You know, Social Status has been one of my favorite places lately. And they did a really great speaker series recently, and there's this whole co-work space in the back.
Yeah.
I love it. And I want there to be more free co-working spaces like that where communities can come together to create and establish and fuck shit up.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Social Status. I've met a couple of guys over there. I've talked to them about doing something. I'll have to follow up with that. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have to go check them out. And then I always like to end with this question because I think that I can learn something from everyone, no matter like who they are. And so essentially take a page out of their book. And so if you had to take a page out of your book and kind of give it to the world, what would that page say?
Wow. A page out of my book.
We've had some interesting pages on this podcast so far.
Wow. You know, this one brings a lot of emotion for me because I kept thumbing to the page in my past where I experienced the most hurt, and I lived on that page for a long time. And it was like, that was the one that I bookmarked. And I reacted to my world because of that one page. And so if there's a page that I've rewritten in my book, it's that you get to choose joy. That the parts of my story that felt dark and uncomfortable were actually the pages that I got to share the most. I just got to share the most with other people, the most connection, the most freedom, that I'm not contained to that page in the past. Like I got to rewrite my story. And that would be the page that I give to somebody, is that you're not alone. No matter what it is that you're going through, that when we choose isolation, it takes us into a pathway of darkness that can be really hard to get out of. And then when we're in community with each other, when we're sharing our stories, when we're being vulnerable, and even when we're sharing what we're up to, right? For you to share with me that those are your goals, like I can help hold you accountable to that. And that doesn't create power dynamics between us, that creates community between us. And when we share with each other in that way, we become more powerful instead of being, oh, well, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I must be a bad person. I don't want to call them and tell them that I didn't do what I said I'm going to do. We get to share that journey together, and life is so much better together.
Yeah. Community is one of my big core values too. And like the darkest times were when I didn't have community. And noticing that and seeing that, whether it was disguised as my wrestling team or like my football team growing up or the Lulu team, whatever, it's like it can be the team, community, your workouts, your Facebook group. It doesn't matter, but it's like just being a part of something bigger. They actually say that there's like one of the studies that we had in one of my wellness books that I have from Sports Psych was like the person with more communities is going to live longer.
Wow.
It's like if you're involved in more stuff, like you have your Wednesday night Toastmasters, and you every Thursday you got a couples thing or whatever. The more communities you're involved in, the longer you live, essentially. Wow. And when I read that, I was like, okay, there's something more to human connection than. Because human isolation, it's not like we aren't snow leopards. We're not gonna like go our whole lives without seeing another snow leopard. It's like we're living with people. The more people you're around, the higher the connection, the higher vibration you have, literally the longer you're gonna live. And so it's like when you think about that, it's like that's a little goosebumps moment. It's like, okay, let's dive into some more communities.
And that really lands. And entering into the Lululemon community, that's the bigness, the big vibration of it all is this is a new family. It's a new door opened of all of the community circles and families that I have now, and it just continues to teach me what love looks like.
Yeah. Gosh, it's awesome. And so, do you have any extra thoughts for the listeners? I think we ran through a good amount. And
we covered so much. The 35-day breakthrough starts December 1st.
Yeah.
You can go to 35.
Plugging in on that.
Yeah, you can go to 35daybreakthru.com and sign up. It's only $35 for the 35-day program, so that's one berries drop in.
Yeah.
For the whole 5 weeks, we're running through January 4th, and when you access this space, you're choosing to create the life that you've always wanted for yourself. And that what you learn in these 5 weeks, you can apply on a regular basis throughout your whole life moving forward. You'll get a workbook to do inquiry questions around what your vision looks like, what your routine looks like, working with accountability partners to rebalance exactly what it is that you want to do on that regular basis, and you define your finish line.
Gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited to embark on this with y'all and see who else is gonna join and then see I'm just excited for 2020 to see what
Same.
the breakthroughs are gonna be, because it's like I know I have my goals and I mean someone told me the other day, they were like, watch someone create a goal and then watch a wrestler create a goal, because it was funny because I was talking to one of my wrestling adults, or one of the parents. And he was like, I've seen people create goals and I've seen wrestlers create goals, and then the wrestlers just fucking kill them.
Wow.
That's what he was telling me. When I told him, I was like, yeah, 42 weeks straight in the podcast, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, wow.
Nice.
He's like, that's good. And so it's like, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what these other people can manifest and honestly see what other people are dealing with too.
Absolutely.
Just like and seeing other people do it, like, seeing other people, I gave up blank for this 35 days. I gave up this, and then it's like you could say you're diving in completely, and then you're like, but there's that one thing that you're not giving up. You know, there's that one thing that you're like, man, I still might be successful if I don't give it up. It's like something you don't want to give up, whether it's partying with your friends or
dog sitting. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if it's some unhealthy habit that's
right.
where you're just like, gotta give it up.
Yeah.
You know?
And sometimes it's the bad stuff, and sometimes it's the things that's just taking you away. That if we're moving into that space of being our greatest, biggest self, it's what are you really saying no to? I'm with you, like, to be able to watch where folks go, I'm learning along that journey, and it's just what you said, like, we're building this new community edge for ourselves that is just continuing to widen so that people don't feel like they're in isolation and experiencing that it's okay to say, like, hey, I'm smoking too much pot and I feel unmotivated, or, I feel locked in by what my dad's dreams are for me. Whatever that looks like, however people are showing up, to say that thing out loud is gonna be such a game changer for everybody.
Yeah, and I know that, like, and we're going off. We were about to finish, but I love where this conversation is going. It was like, I remember when I was in a Lululemon Vision and Goals with the 40 members of our team, and people were like, they were like, who wants to stand up and share their goal? And I stood up and was like, I'm gonna have a podcast. I'm gonna create a podcast. And then I'm not sure how many of the others completed their goal that was set out that day, but it was just like, I at that point I invited 40 others into the idea of me having a podcast. And so at that point it was more, it's like I have the ability to, I will let myself down before I let 40 other people down.
Wow.
I will let myself down before I tell 40 people that I'm going to have a podcast and then I don't create it. And so it's like when you have that, what's the right word for that? That social, I'm at a loss for words. That social impact, that social. I'm losing it.
Social capital?
No, the social. It's like the almost like the social encouragement, the social having a group of people around you that are.
Accountability.
Yeah, just having other people just be there, because then it was like every time I came to the store, someone was like, "How's the podcast going?"
Yes.
Yeah, having that accountability, that just having more people involved, and then the more people I told, the bigger the idea got, and then that's when it was just like, now let's execute.
Wow.
And now it's like I'm taking off running, and like I can't even imagine. So it's like having that. It's like if we were to do this one-on-one, I would only tell one person, and that's why some people might need this Facebook group, so that when they post it, and they're like, all right, well, they might post it, and then they might look at the roster and be like, all right, these are the people I just told that my biggest vulnerability was my dream to do this. And for some people it might seem scary. For some people it might be a relief, you know? It was like that first episode I put out was the scariest thing I've ever done, but then it was the biggest relief I've ever done.
Wow.
Because like right when I published, I was like, all right, well I don't care if anyone listens, you know? It's like it's out there. Hopefully people listen. And I'm still getting listens to it on the first 43 weeks later, still getting listened to on the first episode. And I'm like, man, what a time.
People are listening. Your work matters, and your work is valuable.
It's coming. It's here. Rebby, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you so much. And so, run the website by us one more time where they can sign up.
Yeah, you can sign up at 35daybreakthru.com. That's BreakThru, THRU. Follow us on Instagram, and I can't wait to see you all there. We're turning up.
Yep. Hey, it's exciting. I'm all about it, and I'll be posting these in the show links and everything. So.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. It's so good to be on this journey with you, and I'm happy to be here with your listeners as well.
Yeah. Hey, it's perfect timing. We got like 40 days left in the year, 50 days left in the year. It's right or down the corner. We're gonna end strong with the 35-day challenge. Rebby, thanks so much.
Here we go.